Yeah, a little better. Yeah, let's go.
So let's talk about Tyre Nichols. So over the weekend, on Friday night, there was a footage released of the Memphis police beating a man named Tyre Nichols.
Yep.
Now, the story, as far as most people know, is that the Memphis police pulled over Tyre Nichols. The reason why they pulled him over, still unknown.
Well, supposedly
They claimed it was dangerous driving.
or like a reckless driving or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That was
so,
the stated
that was the
reason.
claim. That was the stated reason. But unfortunately, now that they've seen the video, the police reports and the video contradict each other, so we can't take what they're saying at face value.
No, but it's looking like okay. So we have the body cam footage, but you also have a security camera footage from close by.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what's going on right now is there is a narrative that they're trying to construct that's kind of blowing up in their faces. The narrative is a black man gets assaulted and by police and dies in custody, but all 5 police officers are black. Okay. So for anyone who's in the BLM, cult, bubble, you're like, okay, what do you do? Because it's not an obvious case of a white officer, killing a black man. This is black officers. That didn't stop the goons from like the mainstream media from basically trying to argue that this is still white supremacy. I'm like, oh, you bunch of
utter turds. Utter
turds.
But after this occurred, and after the footage was released and the officers were arrested and charged, the Memphis police has decided to disband the unit that fatally beat him. So the Memphis police chief disbanded the city's so-called Scorpion unit, citing a cloud of dishonor from newly released video that showed some of its officers beating Tyre Nichols to death after stopping the black motorist. Police director Sarah C.J. Davis acted a day after the harrowing video emerged, saying that she listened to Nichols' relatives, community leaders, and uninvolved officers in making the decision. It came as the nation and the city struggled to come to grips with the violence of the officers who were also black. The video renewed doubts about why fatal encounters with law enforcement keep happening despite repeated calls for change. Well, that has fatal encounters with police most of the time have nothing to do with the police's actions.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. Like, you look at the important incidents that have occurred over the past 3 years since the start of 2020, and even beyond there, the famous ones, which we've always heard of, Michael Brown, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you think of Rayshard Brooks, you think of Jacob Blake, all of these names in which they say this is systemic racism, this is systemic injustice against black people on behalf of the police. Every single one of those cases, the police officers were not the ones at fault and not the ones directly responsible for their deaths. Now, there were some actions which were not absolutely the most reputable, but their actions did not directly cause death. And we can go through all of them, but we just not going to be bothered. I've gone through them before, long time ago. I think it was back like episode 40. I went through case by case by case, detailing all of these things, and our friend Shelly's daughter basically repeated what I had said, and she got in a lot of trouble. So, I'm sorry about that, but telling the truth offends some people.
That's the problem, is that whenever you claim that whenever you claim that something shouldn't be said because it'll offend you,
yeah,
that's a completely and totally garbage claim, because this is how they control speech. Remember, the whole idea "I'm offended" has only one purpose behind it. It's not a good purpose. It's censorship. It's we want to get you to stop saying things that we don't like or things that we want to avoid, and so it's all censorship. And that's basically everyone who follows the Marxist, leftist, lunatic left approach follows this pattern. Okay, this is not by accident. That everyone's been taught. this is what you do. This is how you do it. And they all follow the exact same things. This is why a lot of people speculate it's a cult, because cults give people strategies on how to engage with outsiders. And by the way, all of this is completely on par with what they're doing. So, yeah, the whole thing about being offended, I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah. But some people thought that white people needed to realize why this was affecting black people so much. Mm-hmm. Whoopi Goldberg, who is known for famously bad takes, asked if white people need to get beaten up for police reform to occur. So let's enjoy that. It was horrifically bad.
But, when will the brutality finally lead to some police reform from the ground up? Because clearly, it doesn't matter if it's a white policeman or a black policeman. It is a problem in the police, in the policing itself. Seems things don't seem to make sense to people unless it's somebody they can feel or they can recognize. But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything? I'm not suggesting that. So don't write us and tell me what a racist I am.
Because it's true. This is from a person who also suggested that Nazis were not racist.
Of course.
So, yeah, Whoopi, known for famously bad takes. But what she's suggesting is, we need to hit people at home if they're going to understand the problems. And it's like, well, you're suggesting that if police are beating up people en masse, then white people, then it'll be generally accepted that there's a massive problem. It's like, yes, if they're beating up people en masse and they're beating people up for no apparent reason, then yes, people would accept there's a problem. Nobody looks at the Tyre Irving case too. Tyre Nichols case.
Tyre Nichols case.
And says, "Oh, the police are in the right." Nobody has said that.
Nobody said that at all. By the way, can you do me a favor, Stephen? Can you go? I sent it to you by messenger. This is. I was like, dang, where is this video? Because this is relevant. There's a video that came out that was shown by a lot of people on Twitter. Basically, a white woman, I think she's a professor, who basically said that, oh, by the way, the cops didn't do this. The black city council and black mayor didn't do this. We did this. Like this is one of the most like clownish videos that came out.
Listening, paying attention. I wouldn't mind if you would do this with me. We rub our chests.
Never.
We find our heartbeat.
No, never.
And we say, we did this.
No.
We did this. White supremacy did this.
Nope.
I'm talking about Tyre Nichols. Police didn't do this.
Yes, they did. You're the only one not to blame the police.
The Memphis Police Department didn't do this.
Yeah, they did.
White supremacy did this.
Nope, you're an idiot.
I got a message.
Like, that is so unequivocally stupid.
By the way, that got 2.4 million views.
Oh my gosh.
That's a stupid take. That's a stupid take, but it's not that far off.
It's not that far off from what the mainstream media. Yeah.
The supposed mainstream media, the trusted news.
Well, like, what was it? CNN. Van Jones.
The CNN guy.
Van Jones said, like, yes, you can feel the extensions of white supremacy in this act. It's like, you moron. Whiteness and racial tension and white supremacy had nothing to do with this incident, and trying to turn this into a racial incident only further divides an already divisive culture.
It just goes to demonstrate these people are race hustlers.
Yes.
That's what they are. They're what are they called? Al Sharpton all the time. He's a race baiter or a race
hustler.
Race hustler. Yeah, these are people. And by the way, this all goes back to one word. One word you need to know, and go to your dictionary, write it down. Just make sure you remember this word: demagogue. What do demagogues do? A demagogue is somebody who takes advantage of a crisis and uses it for their own selfish needs or pleasures, or their own ends. And that almost exclusively, demagogues are always dishonest. They always rely on lies, deception, or lies of omission to try to like fool people into like getting their cause. A good example of a demagogue would be what's his name, Gaston from Lord of the Rings, from Beauty and the Beast, right? And demagogues are pretty much everywhere in the media. They're everywhere, and they're far more prominent on the left, because the left has zero problems lying. Zero problems. You will know this. The more you get into the conservative side, the conservative political side, it becomes so undeniable. It is impossible not to see it. It's like the Matrix. You can't unsee it once you've seen it.
Yeah.
Like
once you've taken the pill.
Oh, we go back all the way back to like the Kavanaugh case. People were literally like believing the most outrageous nonsense and absurdities. Like, you know, he was gang raping women in like a dorm, like, you know, just like one after the other. It was like, give me a break. Or the whole race hoax with Jussie Smollett.
Yep.
Or the
the garage pole rope, the hijab scissor girl.
The hijacked girl here in Canada, remember? Like,
that was the hijab. That was the hijab scissor girl.
Supposedly somebody cut her hair. That was a hoax. Yep. Even like the supposed like cemetery for like children. In Kamloops, BC. That was a hoax.
The residential mass graves. Yep,
that was a hoax. It's demagogues, and you have to call it out, because remember what the lunatic left does. And by the way, I use that very intentionally, because they are lunatics in the sense that they're willing to spread complete and total nonsense and lies, and are reckless in what they do. The lunatic left, what they do is they always try to take the moral high ground. That is always their bread and butter. High ground. Oh, I'm so morally outraged. That's what Whippy's doing. So what you have to do is you have to go after that high horse.
Yeah.
Because the high horse is basically nothing more than smoke.
Yes.
And it's very easy to take it down if you just point out that how completely and totally morally hypocritical they are. That's what you got to do. That's what we got to do.
So many people are trying to assume what the cause of this incident was. Some are saying that these police officers were involved in a gang. Others saying that Tyre Nichols was involved with one of the police officers' wives.
Stephen, the devil made them do it. That's
I know. Well, like, the most significant piece of evidence so far that we have is that several of these officers were hired when the Memphis Police Department lowered their standards. But the Memphis Police Department is not alone in lowering their standards for hiring police officers. The London Police in the UK recruits illiterate officers who can barely write English to meet diversity quotas. They may also have criminal records. So a 2014 promise to have 40% of the force be represented by ethnic minorities by 2023 has fallen well short, with just 17% of officers being from diverse backgrounds. Matt Parr, the head of the organization responsible for inspecting British police forces, told the Telegraph of London that which will likely be a minority white city in the next decade or so should not be policed by an overwhelmingly white police force. Applicants to the police who can barely write in English are being accepted by the Met in an attempt to improve diversity, one of His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary has warned. That's entirely stupid.
Imagine for a second, Stephen, if you're building a house, okay? You're constructing a house. You get to decide who the people are. Imagine getting a crew of framers who have never framed before, who don't even know anything about framing, and they're responsible for doing that. And people who are pouring the foundation, that it's like their second week at the job.
Yeah.
And they don't have anyone experienced. It's just like a whole bunch of and you just pile that on.
And you go there and you're like, okay, like what? Like, why is this being built this way? And it's like, well, we had to do this for diversity quotas.
Why is the house leaning like, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa? It's like, we're still trying to figure that out,
Well, like what Michael Knowles was reporting, they apparently Google fired an executive, because he wasn't diverse enough, and because he would not hire diverse people, and he would not fire white people or men to be replaced by women.
Yeah,
like this is how woke our society is getting. In that, we have to meet diversity quotas. We have to meet gender quotas. We have to meet minority sexuality quotas. it is creating a society that is more about diversity of appearance than it is about diversity of viewpoints and actually having people that you can engage with across the aisle.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an episode of one of my favorite shows is Community. There's an episode of Community where there's a whole scandal because apparently the school hired or basically gave a degree to a man who, an engineering degree, and he ended up building a bridge that, tons of people died because he had no idea what he was doing. Mm-hmm. That is basically a microcosm of what they're doing.
Yeah,
they're creating like Candace Holmes has talked about this. They're like people are getting dumber.
Yes.
Now, when they graduate from university, they're dumber when they leave than when
they do worse at civics tests.
Yes. And they have no idea about anything. They don't know anything about geography.
Because their brains have been filled with wokeism.
It really is. It's true. And the problem is we are creating, and this is by design, don't forget. This is by design because the woke leftist lunatics, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a society of complicit people who are easy to control, and they're trying to completely and totally disarm any of the people that might be able to push back, including any of the freedom fighters, any strong men, because they're trying to completely demolish manhood, turning it into like some kind of a negative thing, and they're trying to disarm white people. Because why? Because white people are the numerically, statistically, they're the biggest demographic in the country, and obviously the demographic that controls the most power. So why do they go after white people? Because then they can weaponize the entire minority communities, use them as basically paramilitary forces to go after the system, and basically tear down the system so they can rebuild it in a socialist utopia, which is what they want to create. So yeah, it's a mess right now. But
it is a mess. It is a mess. So you may be hearing a lot of narratives about this story. Yes, we are very against police brutality, but that does not make us in support of diversity hiring and racializing every story for the purpose of clicks.
Yeah, it's basically hysteria. That's the best way to put it. Yes, this stuff happens. Yes, absolutely it's tragic. But there's a difference between bringing attention to something and creating an intentional hysteria. And that's the problem with these stories. Kyrie Urban,
Tyre Nichols
is an example of a problem that is actually quite I've even seen some stories of white people that had the same treatment, got killed by police, totally unjustified.
Yeah,
and yet nobody hears about them.
Well, you and I, we're probably thinking of the exact same case when it comes to mistreatment of white people, and basically squashed by the media.
Right, because remember they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Their purpose is not to report fairly. Their purpose is to try to get people crazy, riled up, and make them believe that America is the most racist country in the history of the universe.
But what happened to Tyre Nichols is no less evil and no more evil than what happened to Daniel Shaver.